Alright, so I'm getting ready to install the oil pump. Now this is very important. This oil pump uses two different O-rings depending on the design of the pickup tube that is installed to the pump. If the tube looks like either design in figure 1 or the OE ring was red, which, if you can see mine, it is red. I took it off, but it left a red mark sitting on the ground down there. It is definitely red. Okay, so, or the OE ring was red, then use Melling's green O-ring. If the tube looks like figure 2, or the OE O-ring was blue, then you use Melling's black O-ring. So, you know, the colors make it very obvious. Now, if someone's been in your engine and maybe it's not a stock O-ring color, then I wouldn't trust it. Now, I don't know how they expect you to be able to look at, for instance, the difference between figure 1 here. Look, okay, this one, it has a groove. See, O-ring groove end. But this tapered end and straight end, the difference is 0.03 of an inch between, you know, the larger end of the collar and the shorter end of the collar. That's not much. So you have to be able to look at it and see that, oh, it's perfectly parallel, or it's tapered by 0.03 of an inch, which I guess mine's tapered by 0.03 of an inch, which I felt it, and it did kind of seem like it was tapered, but I was not feeling that out. You know what I mean? I was not trusting that. But basically, if it's the red O-ring, then you use the green Melling. And right here it says to use the green Melling. Mine is not the one with the groove. It has to be the one with the taper, because this takes a black O-ring if it's straight, or if it came with a blue one from the factory. This one's tapered. If it came with a red one from the factory, you use the green O-rings. Here are the two rings that they supply. The green is much thicker. That is our ring. Here's a nice oil pump. So I already got the high pressure spring installed. Now, I would think you guys might know if you've read any on these oil pumps, but this ring in the center here, you see it floating around? When you mount this pump, you have to mount it in a way to where the crankshaft isn't gonna grind on these drives, or the pump isn't gonna grind on the housing. I'll explain how to do that. It's not hard. So I opened up my O-ring and I dipped it in my fresh oil, so it's nice and lubricated. Our O-ring is on. Alright, so we'll get the mounting bolts for the pump. Here are my mounting bolts. Get the oil off of those. So when we put our thread locker on them, you don't have a bunch of oil on the threads. We'll flush out our bolt holes. And throw on there now. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put some oil on this ring so that when the engine starts up, it's not dry. Take some of our assembly lube. Thick stuff. Take that. Rub that all around the inside of this bad boy. We don't want any dry metal parts rubbing on each other when we start this thing. Move it up. We even put a little assembly lube on our crankshaft drive. Alright. Take this bad boy. I have to push this pickup tube out of the way a little bit. Maybe our gear needs to turn a little bit. There we go. Yeah, I didn't have that drive lined up perfectly. Alright, so if you recall, I told you that I had the flywheel locking tool on the flywheel. So I'm going to go ahead and get under the car now and get that loose, because we have to turn the engine over to get this to install correctly. And I'll explain that more when we rotate the engine over. Alright, I wanted to make sure you guys saw this flywheel locking tool before I take it out to install the pump. Goes in the place of the starter. Billet aluminum. I got it on Amazon for 15 bucks. I'll leave a link in the description. Alright, so I got my flywheel locking tool off. I'm going to go ahead and put some blue thread locker on the mounting bolts for the pump. I'm going to get those in there finger tight. Be very careful not to drop these in your oil pan. Now the idea is you only want these tight enough so that when we rotate the crankshaft, that if for some reason the pump drive binds up against the housing in the pump, or by rotating the crankshaft, it will move this pump into the spot where it's not binding, basically. Yes, it will probably be touching, and that's okay. But the thing is you don't want to just tighten this down wherever it sits, because it could be binding and it will wear on the housing of the pump. It might wear the drive on the crankshaft funny. So we just barely snug this up to where we can still move it. Yeah, see, it barely moves. Alright, so that's good. It's just barely loose. You want to rotate the crankshaft 360 degrees. Make sure everything So this is where things get interesting. Now, the normal procedure calls for you to take the oil pan off to get your dipstick or your pickup tube off. You're supposed to take your oil pan off. Well, if you're handy, you can get the bolt out of the oil pump in the pickup tube and leave the pickup tube in there without taking the pan off. Now, the issue with that is reassembly. This bolt here is supposed to be tightened to 80 inch-pounds. So what I did is I went to my lifter tray bolts, which are the same, pretty much the same as this. It's the same size shank. It's a 10mm head. Those get tightened to 106 inch-pounds when you put the trays in. So what I did is I tightened the tray bolt to 80 inch-pounds with my torque wrench. And I got an idea of what that felt like with the torque wrench and with my hand on the torque wrench about as long as this wrench is. Because if you hold that torque wrench out on the end, you're going to have a lot more leverage. And so if you put that same amount of force on this little wrench, you're not going to be achieving the same torque. So you want to, position your hand about the same distance from the head on the torque wrench. Tighten it until it clicks. Get a good idea what that feels like. And now, this is how we have to install our tube bolt, is with this wrench here. We can't get a torque wrench down in there because the pan's too close. So, and that's scary because that's your pickup tube to your engine, so that's a very important one. I'm going to lather this bad boy down with some Loctite. So I certainly do not want this fucker coming loose. Excuse the French. Now, you absolutely do not want to drop this in your pan. So you have to be extra special careful, which I'm probably blocking your view. You probably can't see anything anyway. So I need to get that tube up in there a little better. Alright, so I got it started with my fingers. able to see anything. No, it's in there now. Yeah, I'm doing the best I can with this video stuff, guys. I'm not no professional photographer. It's the information that counts. There we go. And so there you go. Got that on there. See what my finger gauge is telling me. Yep, that's right about there. I would say it might be a little over, which is good by me. Oil pump installed, fellas. On to the timing cover.